extremely pleased, Mr. Secretary General, that you would come to meet with us today. We are the General Assembly of Partners, which will explain in a minute. Would you like to address our group?
Thank you. Good morning, Madam President Jenny Birch, Vice President Shipran Alam Suri, distinguished partners. Good morning. Buenos dias. It's a great pleasure to meet you and address today on the margins of this Habitat 3 meeting. And I'm glad to see such an impressive level of engagement in the conference. The dual urban agenda, which will be adopted on Thursday, is a milestone in development. It will set global standards for sustainable urban development and help us to rethink how we plan, how we manage, and how we live in the cities. This will be another important blueprint after Sendai disaster risk reduction framework and Addis Ababa action agenda for financing for development, sustainable development goals, climate change. Then we had the New York Declaration on Migration. Now we are going to have a new urban agenda. So this will be one of the most important blueprints as far as how we manage and how we live in the cities. As you know, more than half of the world's population live in the cities. The aerial coverage of the cities now take just 2% of the world's Earth, 2%. But in 2%, half of the population lives. That means a lot of problems are coming from the cities. So how to manage sustainably, environmentally, that is our target and task and challenge. Growing numbers of poor and vulnerable people are living in precarious urban conditions like slums and sort of unlivable settlement. These are what we see in major big cities, whether it is poor countries or developed countries. Even in New York and Washington, you have many people who are sleeping on the street. Failure to manage urbanization could increase poverty and insecurity. And together with other new global framework and agendas, we can make this urban agenda as one of the important parts of the visions. Ladies and gentlemen, the outcome document of Habitat 3 emerged from participatory process, and that provided space for all of them, local and regional government, business, academia, women's groups, young people, foundations, and philanthropists, elderly people, young people, or people with disabilities like she's, and many others. Right from the start, that opened up the intergovernmental space to a diverse set of voices. I thank you for your fruitful, constructive, and responsible contributions. This new urban agenda will only achieve its goals if all actors, including yourselves, participate and engage. I urge you to continue to engage. Raise your voices. Let your views be known. Don't be silent on this. No. As a Secretary General, I have been speaking to civil societies. The government leaders, sometimes they do not want to listen what we think it is the right thing to say. They just try to close their ears or close their eyes. But it's you who really make them open up their ears and eyes. And I'm strongly urge you to do so. Now, the visions and innovation of a diverse range of stakeholders is very much important. It's not the government, prime minister, president. It's you. It's your cities. So civil societies and partners like yourself is very much important. For my part, I assure you my full support of the entire United Nations system for the implementation of new urban agenda at the global, regional, and national and local levels. And I count on your continuing engagement. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary General, we are so thrilled with your appreciation, your recognition, your encouragement for us to keep raising our voices as we have done in the past 18 months. I wanted to give you a little explanation of who these people are in front of you, and then they are going to tell you how they are thinking about the new urban agenda. We took the name General Assembly of Partners. We hope you don't mind. We stole it because we thought a General Assembly of Partners would emulate the idea that we would come together and come to consensus and agreement about our shared visions, about the actions and recommendations that we should be taking forward, both within the United Nations and locally in our own countries. We started with 14 groups and we changed to 16 groups. The 14 groups consisted of the 9 major groups when we started, and then we added Habitat Agenda partners, including parliamentarians, and then others who had a stake in cities. And these included grassroots groups, academia, professionals, media. And over the course of time, we've added older persons and persons with disabilities. Our membership rose over this time, and we have to date more than 1,400 groups, unique organizations with 58,000 networks, and we think our outreach is out to the billions. But here's the interesting thing. Fully a third of those who participated this time had never been in UN stakeholder activities before. So this group energized those people. And we worked hard to develop cohesion, and we developed a consensus document called the Partnerships for the New Urban Agenda, which I'd like to present to you, which and in this document, I'll tell you what it says so you can read it at your bedtime and know what it is. We talked about the 5 pillars of stakeholder participation in what we hope will be the post-Habitat 3 architecture and implementation process. We feel that we bring evidence-based evidence, that we encourage evidence-based thinking for policy knowledge. We want to develop and channel and advocate for shared priorities, advocacy. We want to advance and evaluate innovative pilot programs, urban labs. We want to monitor the local implementation of the SDGs as they apply to the New Urban Agenda and the New Urban Agenda itself, and particularly at the qualitative level as well as the quantitative level. And lastly, and this is a little controversial, we hope you don't mind, we're thinking that maybe we have something to say to encourage and advise on major investments by international financial institutions to make sure that they're in alignment with the, or at least talk about their alignment with the New Urban Agenda. So what have we done? This platform of ECG, 16 of them, has had inputs at several levels. And we thank Dr. Close for making this happen in the preparatory activities. First of all, we were asked to be advisors and the drafting committees for the 11 regional and thematic conferences that were the inputs into the New Urban Agenda. Many of us participated in the policy units, also inputs. There were stakeholder hearings, and we were asked to organize a stakeholder hearing after the Zero Draft. We had more than 40 people speaking with our member states about them. We made statements at the July and June Surabaya informals. And finally, the Bureau met with us 3 times, and the co-facilitators met with us for hours, actually. And these were long and respectful meetings. And so this is what we were doing. We thank you for your recommendation. And now I'd like to turn to our partner constituent groups and let them, in their words, tell you where they've been. And they're going to go in alphabetical order, okay? And they'll self-identify. There's a list behind me, so I will not announce you. I think you can just stand up, and that starts with B, which is business. Please.
Your Excellency, I'm Irge Olga from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. You actually know us. You came to our council meeting in Paris last year. ahead of COP21. And I'm here with my co-chair, Grant Smulders, who is the manager of Arcadis Shelter Program, is one of our member companies. I actually wrote many words, and now that I have this opportunity to speak to you, I lost all those words, and I want to speak from my heart. Here I represent a forward-looking business together with my co-chair, and we are aware that the sustainability challenges we face today require holistic and integrated solutions. And we, as forward-looking representatives of forward-looking business and industry, we are here to change the way we do business, and we want to operate within the principles of transparency, responsibility, and accountability. To bring the solutions to the systemic challenges we face and to implement a new urban agenda. And we're fully committed to do this. Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary General, I am speaking on behalf of the future leaders of this planet, of nations and of cities. I represent Children and Youth constituent group. My name is Joyati Das. I'm from World Vision International, co-chairing it with my young friend Hero with UN Major Group for Children and Youth. It has been an incredible journey last 12-18 months to be with General Assembly of Partners. We have been able to mobilize several groups, several stakeholders who actually did not engage with the UN system before. It has been an honor to have those who have not had the voices. Dr. Claus talked about it, that children's rights and youth rights have not succeeded forward as other constituent groups. So we are delighted to see that we were able to mobilize actors to influence and include children's voices, youth voices into the new urban agenda. Moving forward, I would like to say that we would love to be able to continue this catalytic approach of bringing stakeholder voices across all groups in cities and nations to ensure that we are able to be a participant, be a leader, be a contributor to Cities for Children and Youth through the new urban agenda. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jane Katz from Habitat for Humanity International, and I'm representing the civil society organizations. My co-chair, Greg Budworth, is from Compass Housing, and we represent really a cross-section of organizations, over 150 organizations and networks from a diverse number of themes in our particular group. We've had to deal with a lot of issues together, working together to come up with contributions from the right to the city to the right to adequate housing, and certainly we've been aligned on housing in terms of housing at the center, that we felt that was an important issue. We've also been working on areas around secure tenure, making sure that people have access to land, which has been a push that this particular group is really interested in pushing forward. And then we also had, our group has really been interested in the community element and making sure that communities are heard, that communities are part of the decision making in the new urban agenda. And then finally, we've been interested in trying to see that that the governments are held accountable for monitoring and evaluation, and that the communities, in particular, local governments and other stakeholders, are working together to monitor the outcome of the new urban agenda. We look forward to working with you and working with the UN system and working with all of the different stakeholders in this effort, and we're looking forward to continuing with this effort as partnerships together. Thank you.
My name is Violet. I'm from the Farmer Constituency Group, and I really want to appreciate this moment. I think as the Farmer Constituency Group, we actually, as the farmer constituency group, we were actually very concerned that issue around food security were not very strong in the language and in the declaration. But however, we are committed to take leadership in giving guidelines on how the rural-urban linkage will happen effectively to ensure that especially the grassroots farmers, small-scale farmers who are in the rural and have to sell in the urban can access market. This includes giving a direction on how microfinance can happen effectively to support these poor farmers, and also being able to work around multinationals and middlemen that are exploiting farmers. So we are actually changing and saying that we don't want to play a role of projects in this relationship. We want to be key actors and be considered as key partners who will sit on the table to really think through how this rural-urban linkage will happen effectively to enable the farmers to be able to produce and sell. Thank you so much.
My co-partner, co-chair in this is Mildred Crawford from Jamaica. Foundation.
Mr. Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm Oscar Fergus. I represent the Foundation and Philanthropy stakeholder group, together with our colleagues from the Ford Foundation and Maria Glagos, here represented by her colleague Letícia Osorio, both of us from Brazil. It's been, as most of my colleagues have already emphasized, it's been a fantastic journey. Yes, Foundations and Philanthropy have historically partnered with lots of these groups and working together, finding in gap. Yes, a powerful platform to deepen those partnerships. Yes, and particularly being able to work with them on strengthening the right to the city. Yes, has been really quite an achievement for us. We're looking forward to the implementation phase. Yes, we understand that this is just the beginning of our journey, and we just wanted to emphasize to you and the whole United Nations system and our colleagues our commitment to continue partnering. Yes, particularly reinforcing the civil society voice. Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary General, my name is Rose Molokwane. I'm an ordinary leader from an informal settlement, and I'm the co-chair for the grassroots organizations. And my co-chair is Gloria here from WIGO, informal workers. We are here to make our voices heard. Being from the grassroots, doing the dirty work at the grassroots level, we want to partner with the member states and all other partners to make sure that the implementation of the new urban agenda reaches everyone, even the worst part of the poorest at the grassroots level. We are going to do this by committing ourselves. After the Quito, we will commit ourselves to drive the data collection through 100 cities before we go to the coming World Urban Forum. We will do this by profiling, enumeration, and mapping all the cities that will be identified. And at the World Urban Forum, we will be showing the outcome results and the priority activities that the poor want to get as the urban poor at the ground level. And we will use the exchange programs to do this work on the ground. But the most important thing that we want to see, as our voice is being heard, we don't just want to be participating in the process of the implementation of the new urban agenda, but we want to become the real partners with the member states, local government, and everyone who is ready to take forward the implementation of the new urban agenda. I thank you very much.
Sure, we have indigenous peoples. Not here. Okay. Local and subnational governments.
Your Excellency, my name is Yunus Erkan. I'm from Italy Local Governments for Sustainability, co-chair of the Local and Subnational Governments Constituency Group. We have been in this process as being guided by our local agenda 21 since 1992. We have been intervening the local and global level through this process. But the GAP enabled us to institutionalize these kind of interactions. Therefore, we believe it was an important experience. And the local Agenda 21, the spirit, as very well experienced by Dr. Klose in his city, is now reflected into the SDGs and hopefully now in the new urban agenda. But we would like to commend also you over this period that you've challenged the global community on two areas, sustainability and stakeholder engagement, right? Raising the voice of civil society at all levels. But we would like to continue from now on as well, that there are important two paragraphs, 171 and 72, which give the UN Secretary General and the General Assembly a new mandate to define a new way of work at the global level, and local and sub-national governments with our civil society. We would look forward to your guidance and support as well. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary General, I'm Nicholas Hugh, co-chair of the Media Constituency Group, and my co-chair, I think, is busy covering the conference proceedings at this present time. It gives me particular pleasure to hear your words today because I helped organize your first visit to Africa, where you went to Kibera, and you saw the reality of what was happening on the ground. At that time, I was working at UN Habitat. The media did not have a particular position, personal or independent position to defend. It was here as a messenger. And what we tried to do throughout the preparatory process was to translate the preparatory process into meaningful words for people outside the preparatory process. So it was basically explaining to the general public what is happening, why is it happening this way. Our commitment and our job after the adoption of the new urban agenda is to make sure that we have stories that can touch people's hearts and minds so that we can really mainstream the objectives of sustainable urban development throughout the general population and the general public. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. I'm Catherine Klein with AARP, and my co-chair Sean Jones with HelpAge International represent the more than 900 million older persons, 57% of whom currently live in cities and towns, and that's scheduled to double by 2050. So I think we're aware, and we talk all this week about global urbanization, and what's critical is to appreciate, along with global urbanization, is also global aging. And we tend to look more at the negatives of what the implications of aging populations, and we're here to demonstrate that there are many contributions that we older people clearly bring to this agenda. I think there are 4 of us who do. And we are very, very appreciative of being a member of GAP because that has given us visibility. We went from having 3 notices in the 0 draft for the new urban agenda, and now we're represented appropriately in 27. So our voices are being heard, and we thank all of you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ernesto Gilelordi. I represent the parliamentarians, and I think it is the proper of the new urban agenda implementation. The parliamentarians' role must consist on reviewing the legal frameworks of each Congress in order to update and harmonize our laws and give legal certainty to the commitments taken by the member states of United Nations, so that the high purposes of Habitat 3 fulfill the objectives of the agenda in the following years. The parliamentarians recognize the worthy role that United Nations and UN Habitat have given us as active and responsible partners that will work together. Good loss for a better Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary General, I'm Restawa Tinatangin. On behalf of the co-chair of the Person with Disability Partner Development Group, Dr. Victor Pineda, and my colleague Muhammad Al-Tib, we are very proud to be representing more than 1 billion population of persons with disability around the world. And many of us living in the city, and we love living in the city. And we want our city to love us back. And for the first time in the history, we are proud to be participating in the General Assembly of Partner. And we are very pleased to have used accessible information and communication technology to enable persons with disability from around the world to contribute to the development of the new urban development agenda. And we would like to emphasize that the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability is truly reflected in the new urban development agenda. And we plan to continue to mobilize this community to support the process and to focus on the integration of the new urban development agenda and the sustainable development goals, especially Goal 11 on sustainable community and cities, and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, and also implementing the Sendai framework to disaster risk reduction. And we will continue engagement along all partner constituency groups, and we are looking forward to work with you and the UN system, and I thank you.
Mr. Secretary General, I'm representing here with my colleague Jackie the professionals. My name is Didier Kutzem, I'm an urban planner. So together in the last 18 months we were working very strongly by building a community of experts, architects, engineers, and contributing to the new urban agenda. We commit to the new implementation of the new urban agenda by sharing our knowledge, by developing best practices, pilot projects, focusing on solving slums and settlement problems, and also by focusing also on capacity building. We are convinced that this is a very important point, and it is mentioned in the new agenda. Thank you very much.
If you,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry. The Secretary General has a schedule that is asking him to move quickly. I'd just like the people who cannot speak to stand up and hold your signs and we'll identify you. And I'd also like to identify the Vice President of DAP who is speaking in the plenary and was not able to be here. So we have research and academia. And we have trade unions and workers. I know that you were here, Mr. Secretary General, how important the General Assembly has been.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your views. I have listened at least to 13 different groups of voices, but covers basically the same. We are going toward the same direction. When it comes to business communities particularly, it will be very important that all business operations should be aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. After all, these Sustainable Development Goals will cover all of the different diverse concerns and aspirations. Among all these different, I think all your voices will be covered with accountability and monitoring. This year, in July, the high-level political forum, which is the highest forum, has already taken the first step to monitor all this process. And there is one special area when it comes to the rights of people living with disabilities. We have on top of this, in addition to this Sustainable Development Goals, we have another separate convention, the United Nations Convention for the Rights of People with Disabilities. This was adopted as soon as I became the Secretary General, when I started my job as the Secretary General. Therefore, it will be covered more comprehensively in a conventional way, through the convention. But please know that all the concerns we have raised will be covered and will be monitored and evaluated at the high-level political forum. I'm asking many countries to voluntarily submit their progress reports so that the member states will monitor and review, so that if there is something missing or not enough, the member state will surely and strongly urge the member states to continue to do that. I'm sorry that I will not be able to comment all in detail. I'm sure that Dr. Juan Cruz will be able to answer some of your questions more in detail. And I have another meeting now, and I have, which is unnegotiable. At 12:15, I have a meeting with President Korea. But before that, I have another meeting like this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.